It was the biggest game in Philadelphia today, and the Kraken went in and won it! Yes, I know there's still the Super Bowl, but that's actually happening in Arizona. So it's a technicality, but I'm not wrong. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, and welcome back to Kraken winning. It's been a while with the All-Star break and then the 3-game losing streak that we'll just leave in the past, but the Kraken avoid their first 4-game losing streak of the season, beating the Philadelphia Flyers in a game that I said previously was a must-win. While they made it interesting, they did just that. As sometimes it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Other times, how you start makes a big difference. And then there's games like this one, where you can just make up for a bad start and a bad finish by playing well between them. So while this game was far from perfect, the Kraken do come away with the 2 points, which is what's important, especially against a Flyers team that is nowhere near the top of the standings and also was on the second half of a back-to-back. Something that, while it usually would help your team, I want to say this is the 11th time the Kraken have faced a team on the second half of a back-to-back this season, it's not necessarily something that's given Seattle an advantage in those games. But again, especially after those 3 games lost in a row in the New York area, these 2 points were extremely important for the Kraken to pick up, regardless of who they were playing or what that team had done the night before. And even with the Kraken coming in on probably the toughest 4 days of the schedule yet this season, as they had a back-to-back and then a day and a half off before playing this game the morning of that second day with just the 1 day in between. So basically end up playing 3 games in 3.5 days. With these 2 points that the Kraken end up picking up here being so important, because in those 3 games they lost in a row, they fell from first in the division all the way to 4th. Now, with this win, bouncing back up to 2nd thanks to points percentage, yeah, things have gotten pretty tight atop the Pacific Division, especially among the top 4 teams who are all separated by 1 point and 1 game in hand either way. Then, well behind them, there's the Canucks, Sharks, and Ducks, who are all at this point watching the Regina Pats. And I bring up the importance of this game, not just to point out how close things are in the Pacific Division, but also to show how interesting, I guess you could say, of a decision it was for Hackstall and the Kraken to go with Grubauer net as the starter in this one, where Jones has pretty much been getting every start outside of back-to-backs. Now, maybe Grubauer getting the start here was partially due to that shorter than usual day off with just a day and a half instead of the day and then most of the next day before playing on the second one in the evening. But I think it probably has more to do with Grubauer having played very well in net for the Kraken over his last few starts in this last month or so. And while the Kraken haven't necessarily always gotten wins in those games, that's usually had more to do with them not scoring goals at the other end, which they finally do in this one. Unfortunately, though, as we get into the game, the Kraken are not the ones that get on the board first, as the start of this game, well, let's just say I was not feeling particularly excited about this video coming up after it about 5 minutes in, as it doesn't take very long for the Flyers to get on a power play, and in the final seconds of that power play, they do end up scoring on it, as there's a shot that is saved by Grubauer, but it bounces out to just a chaos of bodies in front of him. It's 3 of the 4 Kraken penalty killers that converge in front of the net on 2 Flyers players, and somehow the puck bounces out to the other side, where a completely forgot about and wide open Tippett gets the puck and tips it into the net over Grubauer's pad to give the Flyers the early 1-0 lead. Then, not long after that, Borgen goes to the box for an elbow, and the Flyers are back on the power play with a chance to go up 2-0 within the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game, just like what happened in the last one. Thankfully, though, the Kraken do kill off that power play and do a pretty good job of it as well enough that they're even able to build momentum out of that and really maintain that throughout the rest of the first period. In fact, by the end of the second Flyers power play, they had 4 shots on goal to 0 for the Kraken 5 minutes into the game. But over the rest of the first period, the Kraken would end up getting 11 shots on goal, and the Flyers would get no more. Plus, even more importantly for the Kraken, a couple of those shots end up going in, as these weren't all just shots from the outside hoping for rebounds and second chances like we've seen them do over these last 3 games, not really getting a ton of dangerous scoring chances. No, the Flyers were handing out dangerous scoring chances like they were candy, and odd man break after odd man break. I mean, the Flyers, after those 2 power plays, really looked like what the Kraken or how the Kraken had played against the Islanders and then that first period against the Rangers in the last game. And it's those odd man rushes that the Kraken make them pay on. The first one is McCann stealing a puck from Tony DeAngelo, who's a bit of a knucklehead, but that has nothing to do with the play. McCann steals it from him at the Kraken blue line, skates it all the way into the offensive end with all kinds of time and space, which he uses to pretty much stare down McCann on the other side, eventually saucing a pass over to him, and Eberle getting the pass from McCann, which I don't know what I just said before, but Eberle's the one on the other side of McCann that gets the pass, and he roofs it into the back of the net to tie the game at 1. So, well, admittedly, I was hoping that McCann was going to shoot this puck all along, especially with the elite wrist shot that he has, and I was getting more and more frustrated and ready for the disappointment as he stared down the pass, and not only was making it clear he was going to pass, but making it easier for the goaltender to make that adjustment. In the end, the pass gets across and Eberle gets the goal. So the result is what we were looking for. And happily for the Kraken, the Flyers' issues with maintaining control of the puck just continued as the Kraken lay on more pressure following this. And then a couple minutes later, this time it's Bjorkstrand stealing a puck from a Flyers player. I think it was JVR this time at the Flyers blue line. Before they can get it out, Bjorkstrand steals it from JVR and gets a backhanded pass, no look out to the middle of the ice, where Tolvanen's the last man out, and he has the puck now wide open in the high slot. He whips around, gets a little closer to the net with the space he has, picks his spot, takes his shot, and buries it into the back of it to give the Kraken the 2-1 lead. And for Tolvanen, his 9th with the Kraken as he closes in on 10 just with Seattle in just 19 games with the team. And again, this was a play completely set up by the great play here defensively, even though it was still in the offensive end. But the Flyers had the puck going back the other way with numbers if Bjorkstrand isn't able to make this play. But he continues the tenacious play that he had during last game right through this one as he steals that puck just before it gets out of the offensive end, creates this play for Tolvanen, who has all of the scoring potential in the world, and he's able to take advantage of that to give the Kraken the lead. And even outside of this goal, it was really this line of Tolvanen, Bjorkstrand, and Gord that really helped turn things around for the Kraken and get momentum in their favor at the end of that second power play for the Flyers at the beginning of the period, and then after it, as they were really the ones to slow down the Flyers' momentum that they had built up over those first few minutes. And then they get rewarded with that, continuing that hard work a couple shifts later with this goal late in the first. And although the Kraken would get a couple more shots, that is how the first period would end, with the Kraken leading 2-1. Of course, though, a big part of the reason that the Flyers are not still a bottom-feeding team like they were early on in the season, and have at least managed to fight back to NHL 500 and within distant eyesight of a wild card spot, though you'd probably have to use binoculars to still see it, and they're still not going to make it more likely than not, would be their coaching. So with an intermission and a chance to regroup, this is a team that still wasn't going to go away without a fight, and sure enough, that one goal lead for the Kraken doesn't last too long into the second period, as things have evened off coming out of the intermission, and I mean, this second goal is just one of the goals of the year. It's an absolutely incredible hands-eye play by JVR out in front of the net. The shot comes on goal, and Grubauer's going to make the save, but JVR out in front of the net is able to get his stick to the puck just before it gets into Grubauer's glove. He tips it up in the air to himself and then whacks it out of the air backhand right into the top of the net and just below the crossbar. Not only important to actually get the puck in the net, but also making contact with the puck below the crossbar to not have this called back for high stick. So, I mean, yeah, there's really not much Grubauer or really anybody else could have done about this other than maybe challenging JVR in front of the net a little bit more. It's just an incredible play from a talented player and one of the few really talented players that the Flyers still have. Again, it's a goal that you'll see on highlight reels for the rest of the season and any postseason highlight reels, I would imagine, with JVR tipping it out of the air to himself and then again whacking it out of the air into the top corner of the net, really the only place Grubauer couldn't get to it. The good news here, at least for the Kraken, is that they, to their credit, don't allow this incredible game-tying goal to build momentum for the home team and the Flyers, as they at least manage to keep things even and get their chances at the other end of the ice. And eventually, although it does take until the other end of the period, with just over a minute left in the second period, the playoff starts with Eberle having the puck behind the Flyers' net, and he's trying desperately to get it to one of his two teammates who's out in a high danger scoring area. First, from behind the net, he tries to get a pass up to Wenberg, who's right on top of the crease, or at the top of the crease anyway. That pass doesn't get through, blocked by a Flyers defenseman in front of him, goes right back to Eberle. Eberle then skates up more towards the bottom of the faceoff circle, where he tries to get a second pass, this time giving up on trying to get it to Wenberg, out to Schwartz, who's been forgotten about in the middle of the slot. But that once again is deflected before it gets to Schwartz, right back to Eberle, who skates up towards the faceoff dot, trying once again a third time, and the third time's the charm. It does get to Schwartz, and Schwartz, still wide open in the slot, buries the shot into the top of the net to give the Kraken the 3-2 lead, and a late goal here to go into the second intermission, once again up by 1. And thankfully, this time it is momentum that the Kraken are able to carry through the intermission into the start of the third period. And not just the Kraken carrying this momentum over into the next period, but Jaden Schwartz in particular. As the Kraken early on in the third get the puck down to the offensive end, it's in the corner where Borgen drops it off for Wenberg. Wenberg gets it out to Schwartz, who's just below the faceoff dot, and he fires off a shot and buries it once again into the top of the net. Top corner to give the Kraken the 4-2 lead, getting him his second of the game. And for Schwartz picking up his second goal in just over 2 minutes of ice time, and also his 11th and 12th of the season, with Eberle and actually Tolvanen both getting their 11th of the season earlier on in this game. Again, Wenberg and Borgen setting this one up, both of whom had very good games in their own right, and were well deserving of getting on the score sheet to have something to show for it. And it turns out to be a very important second goal or 2-goal lead that the Kraken get here early on in the third, as the Flyers, now down 2, even though they haven't been particularly good at coming back in third periods this season, do press very hard through the rest of this third period to complete or at least make a comeback happen. And thankfully, Grubauer is up to the task for most of the period, but eventually, late in this third, the Kraken, with about 4 minutes left, are going to get a power play, their first of the game. And while this is the kind of power play that you'd kind of like to see them just play safe, it'd be great if they get a goal, but mostly you just want to kill off 2 minutes and ice this game down and go away with the 2 points. However, the puck ends up cleared out of the end as the Kraken are a little too safe, and then bounces weirdly in front of McCann as it gets away from him. That gets picked up by Patrick Brown at the Kraken blue line as he skates it in for a shorthanded chance, goes all the way to the far wall before firing off he just basically shoots it as hard as he can with a guy in front of him, and somehow it finds its way into the back of the net, cleanly through Dunn and past Grubauer under his armpit to bring the Flyers within 1 with a shorthanded goal, and Brown his second goal of the season. And at first it did look like Dunn might have had this go off of his shin and past Grubauer, and that's how it gets past him. But on the replay in slow-mo, it looks like it goes clean past Dunn and then right through the armpit of Grubauer. So definitely one that it might have caught him off guard, but you'd like to see a save made there. Still, Grubauer made a number of good saves in this game and honestly had a pretty good game outside of this goal. Unfortunately, though, this goal, especially with it being shorthanded and late in the game, is just the shot in the arm that the Flyers need to try to press to get this game to overtime, and they do just that, eventually going empty net with about a minute and a half left, so not long after this goes in, and they get a number of good scoring opportunities. Grubauer comes up with a couple of big saves, and in the final seconds, after first Schwartz has a puck go just past him that if he had gotten it, he might have had a chance to get the hat trick in the empty net, and then Beniers has a shot at the empty net blocked, and then that goes the other way. In the final seconds, he once again has a chance at the empty net from the Kraken blue line, but flubs it. That goes past him the other way and leads to 2 more shots. First one is blocked by, I want to say, Alexiak, and then the final shot by the Flyers goes off of the inner knee of Beniers, so it's a key shot block here that ices the game away and would be right at the buzzer. So the Kraken do end up picking up a win, and especially if that shot had gone in, maybe Beniers saves those 2 points. But he also paid the price as he was hobbled pretty heavily by this shot. Could not put weight on that leg going to the locker room, so we'll just have to hope that this isn't another injury for Beniers that puts him out for a few games. Now, it definitely is the case that with shot blocks, they often hurt the most in the moment, and once you have a chance to shake it off, and especially for the Kraken now have a full 2 days or day and then full day and evening before their next game, Hopefully, Beniers isn't hurt long term, and we'll just have to wait and see. So, once again, it was far from a perfect game for the Kraken, but they get the job done and get those 2 desperately needed points in the standings, and importantly, also finish off or kill off that losing streak before it can get to 4 games, which would have been a season high. Yes, they do severely outplay the Flyers at 5-on-5, not only getting more shots on goal, but outscoring them 4-1 with even strength. However, special teams continue to be a big issue as they give up the power play goal at the start of the game and then the shorthanded goal at the end. So they end up going -2 between 2 power plays, or 1 power play for them, and 2 penalty kills. But even though the special teams continue to struggle for the Kraken in this game, one other place that they've been struggling, they did well here, as they end up getting the better of the Flyers, and with a decent margin in the faceoff circle, where they win 24 to just 19-1 for Philadelphia. And actually, every player that took more than 3 faceoffs came out either even or ahead there. Even Beniers, who's been struggling a bit over the last couple of months in the circle, won 7 of the 12 that he took. And on top of doing well in the faceoffs, where again the Kraken have struggled throughout this season, in this game they also got back at especially even strength to doing very well somewhere that they've played well most of the season, but had really big issues in these last 3 games that led to those losses, especially in the 2 games against the Islanders and that first period against the Rangers, that being in the neutral zone, where the Kraken had really been struggling getting through that neutral zone cleanly, really either direction, which led to a lot of those odd man rushes that we saw in both of those ones I just mentioned, and a lot of those goals against at even strength, where that's been one of the strong points of this team so far this season, being really good in transition both ways, not allowing teams to cleanly transition into the Kraken defensive end, but also transitioning themselves cleanly and quickly through the neutral zone into the offensive end, creating those rush chances for themselves. And in this game, they did get back to that, so 5-on-5, that's at least a good sign going forward. Again, the special teams is something that they'll have to work on. Finally, as for the Kraken 3 stars in this game, the first star for me it's gotta be Jaden Schwartz. He has a 2-goal game and really looked like he had his legs back under him. In fact, he said as much after the game, after having a pretty extended time off of playing with the Kraken, recovering from whatever injury he had, and then the All-Star break, so there was some rust that it looks like he was working off over those previous 3 games coming off of the break. And in this game, obviously with the 2 goals, but was in a lot of those offensive plays and getting in front of the net, back to being that Jaden Schwartz that we saw through the start of the season and when he was healthy last year. Hopefully he can stay healthy the rest of the way, because the Kraken could really use the help scoring, especially while Burakovsky is out. The second star, and also getting on the score sheet twice, is definitely going to be Jordan Eberle. He also has a fantastic game, involved in a lot of plays, and great, he gets that goal that's a nice shot off of the McCann pass, but honestly, the assist is the more impressive one for me, staying with that play all the way and not giving up on the first pass that doesn't get through or the second pass that doesn't get through, staying with it and eventually getting that third one through that Schwartz ends up scoring on with his first goal that gave the Kraken the 3-2 lead. And then my third star of this game is actually not a guy that gets on the score sheet. I think you definitely could make an argument for really either Wemberg or Borgen, who both get an assist on that second Schwartz goal. Again, Bjorkstrand had a fantastic game getting the assist on the Tolvanen goal, and Tolvanen played well himself. But it's actually the third guy of that line in Yanni Gourde who I'm going to give this third star. He was all over the ice, and like both Bjorkstrand and Tolvanen has said, he is the spark plug of not only that line, but really the entire team, creating the energy and being that pest on the forecheck and backcheck, creating plays, keeping the puck in the zone. And while he didn't get on the score sheet in this game, he very nearly did on a number of occasions, getting a number of shots off on goal, even some that didn't quite get on goal and were blocked in front, also getting a couple of passes to his teammates that obviously didn't lead to goals as he doesn't get an assist. But he played really well throughout this game, was a big part of turning this one around from that terrible start, and I think is well deserving of a star and recognition here, even if he doesn't get on the score sheet officially. Plus, he also did really well in the faceoff circle, where he ended up winning 6 of his 9, so the best faceoff win percentage of any Kraken player this game. With that, though, we will start to wrap things up for this one, so let me know down in the comment section what you thought of this game, how relieved we are, not just that the Kraken actually held on to win this game, as it was a bit, we'll say it tested heart health there for the last couple of minutes. They do hold on to get the win and finish off that losing streak, getting their first win since the All-Star break. And an important one as they go to another good team on the road in the Jets here on Tuesday. A game, by the way, which I will be streaming for, so if you've made it to this point, congratulations, you're one of the first to know that I'll be streaming on Tuesday. Yeah. Other than that, there's some other sporting event happening later today, or actually it's probably already happened by the time I got this out, as I'm just finishing recording. Then I'm going to go watch that said game that involves another Philadelphia team. So I don't, at this point, know who won the game. I think I'm slightly pulling for the Eagles, but honestly, I really don't care that much. I mean, the old Seahawks fan in me just doesn't really like the Chiefs. I grew up with the Chiefs being a big rival of the Seahawks, so there's still a little bit of that disdain for the Chiefs, and that's kind of why I'm pulling for the Eagles, plus they're bird bros with the Seahawks. Anyway, I digress. Let me know in the comments section what you thought of this game, maybe what you thought of the Super Bowl, as again, this video is going to come out after it, even though I'm right now recording before it. Anyway, if you made it to this point, thank you very much for watching and getting through that rambly nonsense there at the end. And until that game and stream against the Jets, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken.